Hi, I'm Dave Kahle. Welcome to this Christian Business Insights podcast show where my goal is to provide you with practical, actionable ideas to help you create businesses and careers of excellence and at the same time multiply your influence for the kingdom. I have been a Christian in business for over 30 years, and I have personally and contractually consulted with over 500 different sales organizations. So in these podcasts, I combine the lessons that I have learned with an out-of-the-box experience and perspective on Christianity that you will find challenging. And we put that together to provide you with practical insights and ideas that you can use to live better and lead better. Welcome to the journey. Hi, this is Dave. Sometimes in this podcast show, oftentimes we talk about the intersection of faith and the marketplace. And other times we talk about best practices, whether they be faith-based or not, in growing your business. And today's podcast, we're going to look at some of those best practices for growing your business. So are you hindered by formerly effective sales and marketing practices? Oh, that's probably a stupid question. Everyone is weighted down with practices that were okay in the past but are just not working now because our world is changing so rapidly it's almost inevitable. So maybe a better question is, to what extent are you hindered by formerly effective sales and marketing practices? That's a better question. So I call it FIP, F-I-P. It's an acronym, stands for Fine in the Past. And that acronym refers to all the sales and marketing efforts, ideas, policies, principles, techniques, and strategies that worked well in the past, but are no longer effective. And what's the past? Well, basically everything that's pre-2020, pre-COVID. I still recall a very poignant moment with an attendee at one of my seminars. During the break, he came up to me and said this: Dave, I've been in business for 17 years, and we've done well. But now it seems like everything is changing, and I don't know what to do. He went on to explain that he had built his formerly thriving tool and die business on certain core principles: quality workmanship, competitive prices, good service. Those principles, adhered to with discipline and conviction, had brought him word-of-mouth business consistently over the years. But they were no longer working, and his business was floundering. The pain and the confusion were written all over his face as he contemplated the prospect of seeing his business wither away. I can relate because I've seen that over and over again. Those principles that he espoused are some of the most common examples of FIP, fine in the past, business principles and policies that were sufficient on which to build a business, but today are not. At one time, you could distinguish your business from others on the basis of these and other FIP principles. Now, however, the bar has risen because there's so much churn in our marketplace and the competition is so fierce. The kinds of service and quality that were sufficient to distinguish yourself from your competition a few years ago are no longer sufficient. Your customers expect previously outstanding levels of service and quality from every supplier. The bar is high. What was sufficient a few years ago is necessary today, but no longer sufficient. The reliance on quality service and word-of-mouth marketing is a FIP principle. When viewed from the perspective of effective sales and marketing approaches, these principles are passive. They rely on your customers coming to you, recognizing the superiority of your product or service, and then talking about you to others. That's a passive approach. Your job is to create an attractive operation that will pull customers to you and then keep them coming back. All right, when everyone else was operating in a similar fashion, that was FIP. But when more and more competitors appear and they make the same claims as you do, your reliance on passive marketing methods relegates you to second choice. Probably one of the greatest marketing myths of all time is encapsulated in this expression. I'm sure you've heard it. Quote, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door, unquote. Honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. Once you build a better mousetrap, you then have to publicize it. You have to price it correctly. You have to develop a sales system to take it to the market in an effective and efficient way. And if you don't do that, your mousetrap will linger in the limbo of obscurity. Believe me, I've seen hundreds of businesses of all sizes who've never reached their potential because of an inability to do sales well. They were perfectly capable of rendering outstanding service at competitive prices, but they struggled to survive. These FIP principles were so deeply ingrained in their mindsets that they never learned to do sales as well as they could, and their businesses never reached the level of prosperity and success that they could have reached. The economic landscape is littered with the remains of businesses who were excellent in providing their product or service, but frankly, mediocre in selling it. So here are some really common FIP principles, and I'm going to follow each one with a more effective modern approach. So FIP number one, this is fine in the past, but it doesn't work today. Creating sales by relying totally on outside salespeople. It was okay to hire a number of salespeople, give them some basic training, and then charge them with, quote, go forth and sell a lot, unquote. Sales territories were geographically based, and each salesperson was a clone of the other. Accountability was a nasty word that no one repeated. That was fine in the past. But a more modern, more effective modern approach, let's call that MEMA. That's an acronym, stands for More Effective Modern Approach. Okay, what's that? Well, a little more sophisticated. Customers are first profiled to collect relevant marketing information. Then they're analyzed and segmented not only by their potential but by the dynamics of the most effective sales approaches. The arsenal of sales methodologies now includes a variety of weapons: website marketing, e-commerce, trade show marketing, outbound telemarketing, database marketing, just to name a few. The appropriate sales methodology is selected based on the potential and dynamics of the customer. So the potential and the dynamics of the customer indicate what type of sales methodology is used for that customer. Customer contacts are tracked on a CRM system, and the salesperson becomes one of many methods of acquiring and nurturing customers. Not the only one, but one of many. That's a more modern approach. Here's another FIP. Sales management by pay plan. In other words, you pay them straight commission and you think everything will take care of itself. There, I'm done. Straight commission, I'm done. That was, honestly, there was a time when that was okay, but it's not now. The sales commission plan, while incredibly important, is not the only nor the primary method of sales management. Those who supervise salespeople, whether they be branch managers, principals, or sales managers, they understand the processes and methods they use to focus, motivate, and hold salespeople accountable. Why don't we just stop right there? Focus, motivate, and hold salespeople accountable. Man, those are three words that are missing from a lot of sales systems. Anyway, if you got to decide to focus, motivate, and salespeople. And that's necessary and strategically important part of how effective sales is done. Companies have a formal process of hiring salespeople, training and developing that salesperson, helping that person focus his or her energies effectively, holding them accountable for the wise management of their selling time, and holding them accountable for their results. That's MEMA, a more modern, more effective modern approach. Here's another FIP, reliance on on-the-job training. Reliance on on-the-job training. Well, there was a time when that worked, but now the idea is everyone can learn how to be an effective salesperson. Not. Just put them out there in a sales territory, and sooner or later they'll figure out how to do the job well. That was the FIP idea. And if you have that idea, you're obsolete. Here's a more effective approach. Sales is a profession, and like every profession, requires both a minimum standard of knowledge and behavior in order to be allowed to practice, as well as a commitment to continuous improvement in order to prosper. Let me repeat that. In every profession requires two things: a minimum standard of knowledge and behavior in order to be allowed to practice, and two, commitment to continuous improvement in order to prosper. Would you send your children to a teacher who'd never passed the minimum standards? Would you fly on an airplane with a pilot who'd never been certified? Would you go to a counselor who'd never been trained in the basics of the job? Would you use an accountant who'd never studied accounting? Well, sales is an equally demanding profession. Effective companies understand this, and they develop a curriculum and a set of minimum standards for every salesperson. Once the salesperson has met the minimum expectation for knowledge and behavior, he or she is expected to continually develop and improve for the rest of their career. That's a more effective approach. Here's another FIP: hiring by feel. So if you maintain this, when it comes to hiring a new salesperson, you find someone who has some experience in the industry and about whom you feel good. And because you feel good about them, you hire them. I suppose there was a time when that worked, although I'd be hard-pressed to identify it. A more effective approach is to create a specific hiring process with a profile, the most effective salesperson as a model to which to compare all sales candidates. A more effective approach uses several interviews, formal assessment devices, reference checks, and a well-designed pre-hire aptitude assessment to come to a well-informed decision about who to hire. Effective companies understand that hiring by feel is often a rationalization for a lack of effort. And the decision about whom to hire can be the single most important decision most sales managers will ever make. Now, I could go on and on. The list of FIP positions can go on really for quite a while. But the ones I gave you are the most common. If they apply to you, it's time to rethink your position and move your sales and marketing efforts into the 21st century. Hey, before I go, I want to let you know about something I'm excited about. So I have just recently developed a Substack presence. For those of you who don't know what that is, and a few weeks ago I didn't, it's a software website that allows me to consolidate all my content in one place. And so I'm going to leave you a link to my Substack page where I'm beginning to populate it with content. And within the next couple of months or so, we'll have all the articles and the podcasts and the videos, everything available through this one podcast or one Substack page. So I'll put a link in the show notes, and I'd love to have you join me there. Okay? That's it. We're done. Bye-bye.